Alright, listen up, heroes, and get ready, because we're about to blow the lid off of one of the greatest conspiracies in modern-day Azeroth. I'm your host, Nazax, broadcasting from Crapopolis, Kazan, and today, we're peeling back the layers of a tale so audacious, it can only be delivered by one master storyteller, Chris Metzen. I'm talking a tale that revisits a familiar, yet unexplored place that has long been on the maps of Azeroth from the very conception. A location steeped in potential and expectation, the legendary Undermine. Cataclysm teased us with Kazam's smoky surface, but the true wonder, the bustling, vast tunnels of the Undermine remained shrouded in mystery. So now, as we gear up for the war within the underground expansion, it's not so much a question of if or when, but why we delve into the heart of Goblin ingenuity. And who better to face off against when we go there than our very own Jastor Gallywix. Prep your best tinfoil hats as we take a deep dive into a world of intrigue, mystery, and unravel a shadow within the Undermine that centers around the illustrious Trade Prince. Introduced to the Cataclysm expansion alongside Kazan of the playable Goblin race, Gallywix has become an iconic character of the Warcraft franchise, representing the best and worst of goblins everywhere. Throughout the years, we've seen his ingenuity on display in a manner of ways, whether it's crafting an Azerite-powered mech, or literally crafting a war by exploiting Azerite. This diabolical kingpin of the goblin cartels is not someone you want to mess with. It just might be an understatement to say that Jastor Gallywix is the very embodiment of sin itself. Think about it. This is a guy who lives in a pleasure palace atop a mountain that he carved his own face into. He covets wealth and power like no one else. He enslaved his own people. He doesn't do any of his dirty work himself, but don't even get me started on gluttony.
A body doesn't get into this shape by accident. I take gluttony very seriously.
After causing and funding the Fourth War, Gallywix abandoned us, just like Sylvanas did, and left us to deal with N'Zoth rather than standing and fighting with his faction. And even though we gave him the smackdown in the Goblin Heritage questline, we haven't seen that much of Gallywix since the end of that war. Except for one puzzling appearance. One that defies explanation and shouldn't even be possible. Today's report, Gallywix in Tazavesh, mere coincidence or major conspiracy. In the Shadowlands, we learned that our escape from the Maw, that inescapable eternal prison, was only possible because of our connection to the heart of Azeroth. So here's the big stumper, right? We waltz into places like Oribos and Tazavesh like we own the joint because we've got that fancy Mawwalker status. But then there's Gallywix, a goblin like any other, except maybe a bit greedier. How exactly does this guy slip through the Maw, the big bad soul-sucking prison, and end up in Tazavesh, huh? That's like seeing a Dreadlord fighting for the army of the light. Oh, wait. Now let's say Gallywix does make it to Oribos. What's he do? Probably starts flashing Azerite like it's going out of style, right? Try to smooge up to the brokers. Hey, look at this shiny stuff. Classic Gallywix, right? But it ain't like the guy just walked through the Orgrimmar portal. And the brokers, they hadn't even cracked the code to the front door of Azeroth yet. Something's fishy here, and it ain't the kind you'll find in Booty Bay. Sure, on the surface level, there may not seem to be a mystery presented here. Just grab the old Gallywix back at it with his schemes, right? But when you probe that surface, things become much darker, my friends. I want to warn you, there may be mild spoilers ahead. You see, after all, this is the Shadowlands that we see him in. A place that whether or not he would realize it, Gallywix was indirectly responsible for the access of. During the Legion Epilogue Cinematic, we see a scene where our favorite Trade Prince approaches Sylvanas Windrunner and takes her around back to show her his rod. Well, just as it had been foretold to her by the jailer, this pivotal moment of Gallywix presenting Sylvanas with the discovery of Azerite nearly unmade the world. Yes, that's right, folks. As we recall the Shadowlands, a butterfly effect reveals itself from this exchange. Azerite, the deadly weapons engineered with its use, and the all-out war across Kalimdor that led to the burning of Teldrassil, instigated a conflict of frightening magnitude, the Fourth War. Otherwise known as the Battle for Azeroth, and a fitting name given what it led to, this war that Gallywix funded led to innumerable deaths among the ranks of the Horde and the Alliance. Yeah, that's war, death schmeths, right? But when we slew Argus, it had been infused with deadly magics by the terrible Nathrezim, and it was his soul that disabled the Arbiter in the Shadowlands, causing every soul to go directly to the Maw. With this power, the jailer escaped his ghastly prison, made his way all the way to Zereth Mortis, and nearly dominated the entire universe. Talk about a lot of damage from such a little guy. I mean, surely there's nothing more nefarious happening here, and he can't blame Gallywix for the repercussions of the Fourth War, right? He couldn't have known what would happen in the Shadowlands. But what if I told you there's a more sinister plot at hand? And what if he told us, and we were just too blind to see it? Strap yourselves in as we ride the Azshara Highway all the way down the rabbit hole and discover the truth within a conspiracy that stretches throughout the history of the universe and is playing out right before our very eyes on the fragile world of Azeroth. Let me take you back in time to Warcraft 3 and reintroduce you to an old friend whose subtlety should not go unnoticed. Detheroc, Nathrezim Dreadlord, Master Schemer, and the last survivor of the main Dreadlords introduced in Warcraft 3. Detheroc's been around for some pretty base-shot stuff, including the breaking of Ner'zhul, the first Lich King. And when we meet Detheroc, he's commanding the Dreadlord insurgents alongside his brothers Varimathras and Balmazar, laying siege to the lands of Lordaeron. Later on, we find him at odds with Sylvanas Windrunner, as she refuses an invitation to their new order, and then turned Varimathras against him. A defiance that he would not let go unpunished. One way or another, Detheroc would get back at Sylvanas. To do this, he and Balnazar would use the deathly powers of domination to pervert the will of Othmar, Garithos, and his men. Even Sylvanas herself praised his clever tactics before seizing their stronghold and defeating Balnazar. As Detheroc fled, Garithos and his men were freed as a distraction and slain shortly thereafter by Sylvanas and Varimathras in a historic moment that would define the Forsaken. Detheroc's cunning and mental domination allowed him to live another day, but we would not see him again until the Legions would turn. In this expansion, Detheroc features in the Rogue Class Hall questline, added in patch 7.0, infiltrating the SI-7 and kidnapping Spymaster Matthias Shaw. He then attempted to manipulate King Anduin and the Alliance into an all-out war with the Horde. As masters of illusion, the Nathrezim are referred to as the unseen guests and have sown deceit and discord throughout the cosmos for aeons, using their many agents hidden in plain sight. These extra-dimensional psychic vampire freakazoids are masters of trickery. They generally prefer to manipulate and undermine their enemies from the shadows. It's this very deceptive nature that we see Detheroc exemplify. And although he is defeated by the rogue character player during this patch, we later find out just how immediate the regeneration of demon souls had become during this invasion due to the exploits of Argus's World Soul, ensuring a swift return for this corpulent master of carnage. The next and most recent time we hear of Detheroc again is in Shadowlands, from within a set of writings called the Translated Cryptograms, appearing in a set of quests from Revendreth that cover the Dreadlord heist to retrieve Raymodia, which bound their master's soul. In these writings, Sardathria sends directives to a host of Nathrezim agents, including Detheroc and the infamous Mal'Ganis. The final two orders read as follows.
Mal'Ganis, yours shall be the greatest challenge. Infiltrate Renathar's inner circle, walk side by side with our brother, and ensure he comes to no harm. Endear yourself to the Azerothians and allay their suspicions. When the time is right, we will give you the honor of revealing my plan to Renathar. Detheroc, if you fail us again, I will personally flay you. When Mal'Ganis springs his trap, you are responsible for recovering the asset. Do not fail me. This is the Master's final order, and I will see it executed correctly.
It's interesting that Detheroc's order is the final on this list, almost as if presenting it is the most important. While the commonly accepted notion is that the accent referred to is Raymonia, and Mal'Ganis' trap being the one witnessed in the questline, Detheroc's NPC is not featured. A close look at the cutscene depicting Raymonia's retrieval reveals that none of the Nathrezim shown enacting this plan seem to be the iconic Dreadlord either. And this leaves us to wonder then, where is he? And what is the asset he is truly assigned to? Now, let's cut through the fog of war and mystery and ask, what was Gallywix really doing in Tazavesh? This ain't just your regular goblin trickery, it's a move that defies the very laws of our known reality. Remember, the portal above Iceground into the Maw was the only ticket in. And without the heart of Azeroth, it was as good as a one-way street to oblivion, even for the likes of us. We always shrugged off the why, Gallywix being Gallywix after all. But the how, well, that's the real head-scratcher. Buckle up, because this is where it gets nuts. The real Gallywix, our beloved schemer and coin counter, what if he's been out of the picture longer than we thought? What if, around the time of patch 7.2, Tomb of Sargeras, he got nabbed, shanked, or mind-zapped by none other than old-school Warcraft 3 baddie Detheroc? The Gallywix we see in Tazavesh, an imposter, a crook, a no-good, bat-wigged, skin-changing freak who's been playing us for chumps this whole time. Because you see, even if we didn't realize it, he told us, right to our faces, and we had no clue. Remember that smug line from Gallywix when presenting Azerite to Sylvanas?
I told you!
Sounds like typical goblin bragging, right? But hold your wrenches. This isn't just any old boast. This is like the jailer himself whispering in Sylvanas' ear through a goblin-sized megaphone. It's Detheroc, disguised as Gallywix, or pulling his strings, echoing the prophecy. That one line, I told you. It's like a laugh in the dark, mocking and chilling. It's Detheroc as Gallywix throwing the jailer's words back at Sylvanas, and she doesn't even catch the double meaning. It's a masterclass of deception, a Dreadlord's trick at its finest, and the sweetest revenge on the Banshee Queen for her defiance after the Third War. This revelation redefines Gallywix's role in the events of BFA and Shadowlands as a vital cog in the machinery of the Nathrezim master plan. With this hindsight, we can recall Gallywix during the Horde War campaign, musing over his role in sparking the entire Fourth War. His words, though seemingly flippant, now echo with deeper, darker undertones.
I never would have thought this is where things would end up after I told Sylvanas about Azerite. You know, sometimes I think, should I have really told Sylvanas about this whole Azerite thing? If you really think about it, if no one ever found out about the stuff, maybe we would have never started this whole war. Could have avoided burning down that tree, might still have the undead city. It really makes you think, don't it? Ah, just kidding, I don't care about that stuff. I'm flying a friggin' mech that shoots lasers made out of the planets below.
All the signs were there and all we had to do was look. You think it's coincidence that the D in Gmod stands for death? Let's not forget the time he escaped the Alliance player by using a decoy literally named Gallywix Impersonator. Talk about a classic move from the old bag of Nathrezim tricks. And the Magnetar in the room, his excessive weight. It's not just a visible trait, folks. It's a clue, a symbol, or a reflection. Both Detheroc and Gallywix are the avatars of gluttony.
I take gluttony very seriously.
This blatant embrace of sin, a hallmark of the Nathrezim and their master, now casts a sinister shadow over what we once saw as mere greed. Suddenly, Gallywix as sin incarnate isn't just a metaphor, it's the perfect camouflage for a Dreadlord, the unseen guest in its most devious form.
The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn.
Waiting for Magni Bronzebeard to prove himself the subject of this cryptic whisper, the real King of Diamonds, or should I say Prince, that treasure-hoarding, greedy goblin Gallywix that has fit the bill all along was right under our noses. And he even wears a diamond necklace. So far, all of the old god whispers have had multi-interpretable meanings, and this one should be no different, making Magni the obvious red herring. But it's more than that. It's a forewarning of the real war within. Our upcoming journey to the Undermine isn't just a jaunt to the Goblin Metropolis, oh no. It's a race to stop Detheroc from tinkering with the world soul. Now you might think, what does Khazarn have to do with the heart of Azeroth? And why would the Nathrezim position Detheroc there and in this particular role? You see, Khazarn, home of the Undermine and Mount Kajara above, are known for their rare, unique mineral substance, Kajamite. Kajamite is the root of Goblin society to which we owe our impressive intelligence. And most importantly, he was in a Kajamite mine on this very island long before the finale of Legion and Sargeras' sword came down that Gallywix would first find Azerite, making it the cap of his scepter. Chronicles indicate that long before the Sundering, Titan Keeper Mimiron discovered Kajamite and experimented on primitive creatures from forests around Ulduar, using it to expand their consciousness and create the goblins. These ancient goblins were vastly superior in intellect when compared to the goblins of modern day, having been reared by the tinker of all tinkers, which is why it's highly likely that Mimiron constructed facilities deep in the world to study the origin of Kajamite, a laboratory tapped right into the primary source below Mount Kisharo. Picture this. Hidden beneath the Clagian steam of goblin engineering are the titanic devices of old, like those we'll see in the ringing deeps. These machines that maintain the heart of Azeroth could be the Nathrezim's golden ticket to our precious world soul. And given what they did to Argus' world soul, that spells nothing but bad news for Azeroth. So as we gear up for the war within and venture to the Undermine for what seems to be a simple showdown with the biggest, baddest goblin in town, we'll actually be delving into the heart of greed itself. And there in those shadowy depths, we might just unearth Detheroc's diabolical scheme and delay the coming darkness. And that, my friends, is where our roller coaster ride of revelations comes to a halt. For now. But the game isn't over while there are still pawns in play. But we unravel the web of Nathrezim lies together, delve into the deepest tunnels of the Undermine, and expose Detheroc for his dastardly crimes. I remind you that it is not just about adding new locations to our maps. It's about honoring a piece of Warcraft's history that has been with us from the start. It's about picking up a thread laid down years ago and weaving it into the grand evolving narrative that has captivated us for over 2 decades. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Knowledge Wars, where the truth isn't just out there, it's buried under layers of goblin gold and titan machinery. Remember, folks, you are the resistance to the Nathrezim world order. I appreciate your time today because, as every goblin knows,
time is money, friend!
Don't forget to try our Kajamite supplements.